Hello there, good evening and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Tonight, the African Democratic Congress is back in the spotlight after months of wrangling over its national leadership. INEC's recognition of the David Mark-led executive ends weeks of speculation and gives the party's new coalition of political heavyweights a stamp of approval and legitimacy. So what does this mean for the ADC, for the coalition, and for the conversations around 2027? Well, to help us break it all down and tell us what it means for the ADC and Nigerian politics, we have with us in the studio Dr. Ibrahim Mani, the party's national or officially recognized national financial secretary or national treasurer of the ADC. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Good evening to you and welcome.
Thank you, Abdullahi.
I believe congratulations are in order.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. And some would say you owe INEC an apology. Is that a fair thing to say?
I don't understand.
Because all along you made it look like INEC is standing in your way.
It required a lot of back and forth and so many clarifications that came along the way. What happened is not that INEC said we should go and redo the processes that took us about 18 months to arrive at the leadership change, or telling us that any aspect of the leadership changes or the procedures that we followed were not in order, or there are any court cases or encumbrances that has stalled this thing for a month. What we got to understand from the electoral management body is that there are certain administrative requirements that we need to fulfill, which are generally administrative, like I said, while transmitting the names and signatures of the new leadership of the party, particularly the chairman and the secretary. And certain details were later ironed out. Details such as the style and the nature of the signatures in the first place, as to whether they should carry dates or they shouldn't carry dates and things. So what held us back has nothing to do with the entire process of the formation of the coalition, has nothing to do with the leadership change, has nothing to do with what we're doing to bring an alternative platform for Nigerians to see and be able to key into, and for the democratic process to move forward. What held us back was purely administrative considerations, and when those were ironed out earlier at the end of last week, we have expected this to happen, and it happened today.
So back to the question, everything that you've said about INEC up until this moment, do you wish, some of your members who were very critical about INEC, who were almost certain that INEC is in cahoots with the APC to undermine the coalition, to make sure that these internal wranglings continue up until the 2027 elections, do you believe that now you have a different view of INEC?
Not quite, because I want us to differentiate between the official position of the party and then the views of people who are sympathetic to the party. Our official position has been that we have fulfilled all the requirements, and we are waiting for INEC to do their own bit, and that it was just a matter of time before that could happen. As to whether people are trying to scuttle and truncate the emergence of the coalition, yes, but not necessarily INEC. Those are issues that came from other quarters where they are infiltrating members of the party, encouraging them to go to court and make all sorts of ridiculous claims as to they being the leaders of the party, trying to discredit the process that led to the emergence of the David Mark-led interim management team, which is also the caretaker committee that will look at the affairs of the party for the next 12 months and things like that. Those areas we have issues, and we know that they have been sponsored, and we know that they don't mean well for us. But we're not necessarily officially as a party. We've never point our fingers at the electoral management body.
Yeah, but officially you have cast aspersions on INEC. I mean, the recent one was the press statement, I believe, released by your publicity secretary, Mr. Abdullahi, about the ongoing continuous voter
registration. Yes,
right.
We had such issues. Yes, because it's something that was ordinarily out of the blues for a certain state to have such a huge number of people registering or indicating their intention to register within 1 week in hundreds of thousands, as it were. But I think we later engaged with the leadership of INEC. They provided some explanations, and we told them that we'll watch to see whether those explanations are going to produce a different results from what we think. We suspected foul play, although they are insisting that what happened is normal and is consistent with other outings where such massive registrations were observed. But you know, this is politics, and in politics, people tend to want to take advantage where they see such windows available. Right. So we want a very open and a transparent process towards the elections, and of course, registration is key at this moment, and that people are given the opportunity, and there's enough sensitization, and there's enough publicity, and anyone who is, I mean, at the age that they are required to register, allowed to register from any part of the country without giving any particular region an undue advantage over others.
And how would you characterize the relationship of the ADC and the electoral umpire? Because you are emerging as one of the leading opposition voices alongside the PDP and possibly the Labour Party also. Would you describe the relationship as still as adversarial? Because that's how a lot of people from the outside looking in would describe the relationship of the ADC to its regulator, which is INEC. Or are you trying to cultivate a much more friendlier, favorable relationship with the electoral umpire?
Yeah, where we think they are going wrong or ultra vires, as the case may be, we'll raise our concerns. And where they're doing the right thing, of course, we'll commend them for doing the right thing. So our relationship with them will continue to be pragmatic, and we'll approach the issues as they come. But what we expect, I mean, in our general understanding, is that they will be unbiased. They will create a level playing field for all the political parties in Nigeria to be able to participate, and that they will not in any way favor any party for them to be given an undue advantage over others when it comes to these matters. We want them to really be independent in the true sense of the word independent.
Right. Now we know INEC's recognition means that the current leadership has the legal backing to spearhead the affairs of the party without all the distractions that have inundated the ADC since the announcement of the interim national working committee. So is it safe to say then that for the coalition there is no more plan B? This is the final destination, the final bus stop.
Really, for the coalition, this is not necessarily a legal endorsement. It's an administrative endorsement. The legality of what happened with the various motions that were moved, with the various meetings and the resolutions that were passed, with the transition itself, the process, and how we opened up the party, how people vacated their positions for others to come in, and the entire formation of the coalition is what gives the whole process the legality. We knew we've done everything within the confines of the constitution of the party, the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and as well as the Electoral Act. We knew that it's just a matter of time before whatsoever setbacks or encumbrances like the one which I have explained, certain details about how signatures should be and things like that, and how letters should be transmitted. Those were the issues, really. So what happened now, we know it's going to happen. We have waited for it to happen. And to a large extent, it's more like an administrative endorsement rather than a legal one. So we knew that what we have done has all the legal backing that it should. But on the flip side, it gives us a respite. It gives us more impetus now. You know, everything about politics to a large extent is about perception. The fact that this didn't happen has made so many people to wonder whether it's a stillbirth, whether ADC coalition will move ahead as promised. And we cannot shy away from the fact that it pulled some air out of our balloon because of the way people perceive. So that momentum is coming back. Things will happen at a very fast pace now, and the much desired strong opposition that this country needs is going to happen in a couple of weeks and months from now.
What about the undecided, the ones who have been flirting with the coalition but have not officially joined the ADC? Does this then reassure them that there will be no sort of legal battle about the takeover of the party going forward? And do you anticipate that this could be the beginning of a fresh wave of people coming into the ADC?
Certainly, this will make a lot of difference in that aspect. Like I said, everything is about perception. The momentum, the euphoria, the excitement that came with the uploading of these names is a clear indication as to what direction things are going. As you can see today, is the hottest news in the country, and
one of the hottest news
for us. It is. I don't know the other ones. So this is key. It's important, and it's going to change perception. For some of our key members, really, they will still not fully come in, even after this, because they are looking at elections that will happen in November in some of the states, and also elections that will happen, I think, a bit later. And this is where people, either in the SDP or people in the Labour Party, have fielded candidates. What we're trying to do now is to align our forces and be the coalition as it should be. An example of what happened in 1983 during the elections and the coalition between the PRP, the NPP, and the GNPP. So we're likely going to have a little of that model going towards elections in Niger, in Anambra, and in elsewhere. I mean, immediately afterwards, all the big shots that are hanging there will come in. And we agree with them that they need to execute this because they have already fielded candidates long before we come into the coalition as it exists today.
What do you say to people who criticize the ADC and all the quote-unquote momentum it's been getting over the past couple of months as one that is fabricated, manufactured, and not necessarily organic, because you're already taking pieces from other political parties to form this new movement without necessarily it being, built from the ground up?
Yes. So for you to build a political party from the ground up, you certainly need a lot of time. Between now and the next round of elections, such time is not there. And there are other considerations as well. So the permutations have looked at all the possibilities, really. And what was settled for, which is the coalition, an arrangement that people can come in and identify with the party and present themselves for elections under the party, and they get the support of people who otherwise were in different political parties than them. And under this new banner of the ADC is the, I think, quickest arrangement that we can do regarding what is the time that is available for us. So after 2027 elections, then you will see more organic, more inclusive, more proactive party building processes that will further entrench the ADC, and then ADC will become the party of choice in Nigeria in the years to come.
Tantamount to putting the cart before the horse.
How?
I mean, if you have to go through a general election to become organic, I mean, that sounds like you're skipping a step.
Yes, so like I'm telling you now, there are people who still have affiliations to their original parties and they are coming into a coalition. What is going to, this coalition will be there up till the elections in 2027. But what I'm assuring you is that immediately after the 2027 elections, the issue of coalition will dissipate. And then the correct fusion of these people, and this will mean that they will forget and dissociate themselves and delink themselves from the other parties where they belong to, where we associate them with. For instance, now, there's no way you can talk about, let's say, Peter Obi without mentioning Labour Party, or you talk of Aregbesola without mentioning the APC and things like that. And there are so many of such people there. So what is going to happen moving forward after all of this is that those other affiliations that these people are known to have will be done away with, and everybody will come into an organically formed ADC, and it's not going to be a coalition any longer, and it will be a full-fledged political party that will move forward after that.
Sounds to me that the ADC has already learned to walk, and then is trying to learn how to crawl after already walking. But of course...
No, but you know, the political process allows for all sorts of things. You can have a coalition, you can have a merger, you can even go and submit your certificates to INEC and say you don't want to be a political party, you want to be deregistered.
Win or lose in 2027, you still think there's room for you to build?
Yes, we will.
All right. You talk about the hottest news of the day. Some would consider what we're about to play the hottest news of the day. Let's have a listen to this one from the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, speaking on all the political tension and the fever around the country in terms of the conversation of 2027 and how all the politicking itself is not necessarily good for Nigeria's democracy. Here's the INEC chairman talking about early campaigns.
The purpose is to discuss the disturbing trend in the conduct of public elections, whether they are off-cycle, governorship elections, the area council elections in the Federal Capital Territory, or the 2027 general elections, where parties and candidates engage in campaign long before the period earmarked for such activity under the law. Professor Zuru has referred us to the provision of Section 94(1) of the Electoral Act 2022, which prohibits the commencement of campaign earlier than 150 days, that is 5 months before polling day, and must end 24 hours prior to that day. The idea is to prioritize governance over electioneering from one electoral cycle to another. However, political parties, candidates, and their supporters seem to be perpetually in election mode in Nigeria, even when the Electoral Commission is yet to release the timetable and schedule of activities for elections, or ahead of the time frame provided by law. Around the country, we have seen outdoor advertising, media campaigns, and even rallies promoting various political parties and candidates. These actions and activities undermine the Commission's ability to track campaign finance limits as politicians, prospective candidates, and third-party agents expend large amounts of money that cannot be effectively monitored before the official commencement of campaigns.
In the words of the INEC chairman, disturbing trend where the political arena in the country is pretty much active. One would think, rightly or wrongly, that the elections are just around the corner and we still have well over at least 18 to 19 months before the next general election in the country. Of course, berating and calling the attention of all political actors to do the needful and abide by the constitutional provisions that stops elections, election campaigning or campaigning generally before an election until 150 days to the election. Well, Doctor, it's safe to say that most of the leading political parties are guilty of what the INEC chairman is talking about there. Do you think the ADC is one of them?
We don't have posters anywhere. We don't have billboards anywhere.
He wasn't talking about posters.
How else are people campaigning?
I mean, what you're doing amounts to campaigning.
No. I didn't tell anybody to vote for ADC or any of our candidates.
Did you
We're
have
not
to?
there.
When you're saying you're on a rescue mission.
No, but that is not what he's talking about.
Yeah, but it's campaigning.
He knows exactly what he's talking about. Campaigning is actually soliciting for votes or soliciting for support, for a candidate, for a purpose to get him into a particular office. Now, we don't have candidates in ADC. We don't have. Except for those maybe FCT elections or other places where we have fielded candidates for. But the main campaign that is going on in Nigeria is even presidential. We don't have a presidential candidate.
They do have aspirants.
Yes, but they are not campaigning. They've not even gone through our primaries.
Their activities are the closest thing to a campaign right now. Everything the ADC has done in the past 2 months can be subjectively considered as campaign.
Yes, subjectively. But if we're talking objectively, we're not campaigning. People can attribute maybe sensitization, maybe mobilization of people to register into a party as maybe something that is done with the view at the end of the day, the end game is for the candidates of the party to be voted in when the time comes. There's no problem with that. But what I'm saying is that we don't even have candidates.
That is campaigning, Doctor.
We don't have candidates and we are not campaigning.
When you're positioning yourself as a better alternative ahead of the next election.
It's not campaigning.
When you say you're on a rescue mission.
Yes, you have the electoral process allows you to... You're
inadvertently campaigning.
No, you're allowed to sell your party. You're allowed to sell your manifesto. You're allowed to do all of that all through. The campaigns have to come when you are positioning candidates for particular offices. We have not endorsed anybody. We have not said we have zoned our positions to any part of the country. We have not said that we are going to have a sole candidate. We have not said that we have reserved the presidency to anybody. And where these things are happening way off the cycle is what he's talking about. There's a period, there's a timetable, there's a period for you to go into your primaries. It is only when that period comes that you're allowed to start presenting candidates as the case should be. And there's a period of time for you to campaign. And now we're seeing instances where there are a lot of posters around, there are a lot of billboards around, and already you can see that they're very specific as to what offices they are putting those posters and billboards for and for what elections they are putting those posters and billboards for. I think it is good that the electoral management body is calling political parties to order, particularly those political parties that have violated this very important aspect of the Electoral Act. We must wait It's like a dash. It's like 100 meters dash.
So when the
we have to wait,
and the likes of El-Rufai, Atiku Abubakar, Rotimi Amechi, Peter Obi are speaking to removing Tinubu in 2027, all of that, you don't consider them to be campaign messaging?
It would only be a campaign message if El-Rufai says, replace Tinubu with me. That's when it becomes campaign.
Well, he's saying ADC is the replacement. Isn't that what it's all about? Because at the end of the day, it's ADC that is on the ballot.
ADC is a replacement for APC.
And that is the campaign?
No, it's not a campaign. Because in a campaign, you need to have a candidate and a position. You're pushing a candidate for a position. And that is exactly what INEC is talking about. There has to be an election in your targeting. There has to be a candidate you're targeting, and you have to actively canvass for votes for that candidate. We're not doing any of that. And we know the rules. We're going to play exactly by the rules. So what we're doing now is to sell our party to Nigerians. And there's no way you can sell your party, you can sell the candidate before selling the party. You need to sell the party before you sell the candidate. And that's exactly what we're doing. And it's legally and it's completely within the Electoral Act. The law allows us to do that.
I think it's a matter of perspective, the way we both see how campaigning works, and I believe the Independent National Electoral Commission does have concerns about some of the messaging that's been put out there and how that in itself is giving birth to a conversation around the election for 2027, which is still some time away in any case. Well, Dr. Mani, thank you so much for the analysis. I appreciate you very much for the insight this evening. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.